Something is happening beneath the world's oceans right now, something that Beijing does not want you to know. China has been on a military buildup like nothing the world has ever seen. Their Navy now has more warships than the United States. Their shipbuilding capacity is 230 times larger than America's. Military analysts are sounding the alarm. But here's the question nobody is asking loudly enough. What happens under the water? Because beneath the surface of the Pacific, the Indian Ocean, and the South China Sea, there is a silent war happening right now. A war of technology, a war of experience, a war of nerve. And in that war, China is losing, badly. Their nuclear submarines, the crown jewel of any nation's military deterrence, are being tracked, outgunned, and outmaneuvered by a U.S. submarine force so advanced, so experienced, so lethal, that China's boats might as well be painted bright orange. Stay with me, because what you're about to hear will completely change how you understand the balance of power in the Pacific. Let's start with the raw numbers, because they tell a story. Right now, today, the United States operates 66 submarines. Every single one is nuclear-powered. China operates 12 nuclear-powered submarines, plus at least 46 conventionally powered diesel-electric submarines. Now on the surface, that looks close. China almost matches the U.S. in total sub count. But here's where the story gets brutal for Beijing. Nuclear-powered submarines are not just better than diesel-electric boats. They are in a completely different category of warfare. Nuclear subs can stay submerged for months. They don't need to surface to recharge batteries. They travel faster. They dive deeper. They carry heavier weapons, and they can operate anywhere on the planet, silently, without anyone knowing. Diesel-electric submarines? They're regional weapons, short range, periodic snorkeling required, and far, far more detectable. So while China may appear competitive on paper, in the category that actually matters in a real war, the U.S. holds a massive, almost unclosable advantage. But the numbers go deeper than just submarine counts. Of the U.S.'s 66 submarines, 14 are SSBNs, ship-submersible ballistic nuclear submarines. These are the nuclear doomsday machines, the ultimate deterrent. These are the boats that can end civilizations. The remaining 51 American subs are attack submarines, SSNs and SSGNs, fast, lethal hunters designed to find and destroy enemy ships and submarines. China has just 6 SSBNs and just 6 nuclear attack submarines, SSNs. That difference in a nuclear war, it doesn't just matter, it's the entire ball game. Here's the cold, terrifying reality of nuclear war. To truly deter a nuclear strike, you need submarines that can hide anywhere in the world's oceans and launch intercontinental ballistic missiles, ICBMs, at a moment's notice. Even if your entire mainland has been destroyed, even if your cities are ash, the enemy has to know that somewhere beneath the ocean, your submarines are still alive and still capable of turning their cities into ash too. That's what's called second strike capability, and that's what SSBNs are for. Now, China's 6 SSBNs face a brutal mathematical problem. Submarines require massive maintenance between deployments, long dock times, crew rotations, resupply, which means at any given moment, China likely has only 2 to 3 submarines actually operational and at sea. 2 submarines to cover the entire Pacific. 2 submarines to guarantee China's nuclear survival. If the U.S. finds them, and here's the terrifying part, it can find them, China's entire undersea nuclear deterrent evaporates. The United States, by contrast, keeps 4 to 6 Ohio-class SSBNs deployed globally at any given moment. Simultaneously, always. One might be lurking in the Pacific, one in the Atlantic, one beneath the Arctic, silently, patiently, waiting. And here's the firepower comparison that should make Beijing lose sleep. China's 6 Jin-class SSBNs can carry up to 12 missiles each. That's a maximum of 72 submarine-launched ballistic missiles, each estimated to carry 3 to 5 nuclear warheads. Total SLBM payload, between 216 and 360 nuclear warheads. Now listen to the American numbers. The U.S.'s 14 Ohio-class SSBNs carry up to 20 Trident II D5 missiles each. Each Trident can carry up to 8 independently maneuverable nuclear warheads, capable of striking targets 7,500 miles away. Current operational loadout, 4 to 5 warheads per missile. That means the United States has between 120 and 400 nuclear warheads deployed on submarines, right now, somewhere in the ocean. 3 to 4 times more than China. And with the New START treaty now expired, and Washington showing zero interest in new arms control deals, that number could climb even higher. China would need to double its SSBN fleet, quadruple its firepower, and dramatically expand its nuclear warhead stockpile, currently estimated at 600 to 700 weapons, just to approach parity with the United States. That is not a gap. That is a chasm. But raw numbers only tell half the story. Because in submarine warfare, the most important weapon isn't a missile. It isn't a torpedo. It's silence. The ability to move through the ocean without being detected is the difference between being a predator and being prey. And this is where America's advantage becomes almost unfair. The U.S. Virginia-class submarine, the backbone of America's attack submarine fleet, operates at noise levels below 100 decibels. For reference, that is effectively ambient ocean noise. The Virginia-class doesn't just hide from sonar, it disappears into the ocean like it was never there. The technology behind this is extraordinary. Pump jet propulsors replace traditional propellers, dramatically reducing noise. Anechoic hull coatings, echo-absorbing tiles across the entire hull, defeat sonar by absorbing and scattering sound waves. And while the Virginia-class is nearly impossible to detect, its own sonar system is a completely different story. The ANBQQ-10 sonar suite aboard the Virginia-class can distinguish a submarine's shaft rate tones from whale calls at ranges exceeding 50 nautical miles. 50 nautical miles. The Virginia can hear a Chinese submarine before the Chinese submarine even knows an American boat is in the water. Now compare that to China's submarines. China's most advanced nuclear submarine, the Type 093B, operates at around 120 decibels. Their best conventional submarine, the Yuan class, achieves around 110 decibels using advanced air-independent propulsion. That might sound close. But in sonar physics, every 10 decibels represents a tenfold difference in detectability. China's submarines are orders of magnitude louder than their American counterparts. In submarine warfare, the rule is simple and merciless. If you can be heard, you can be hit. U.S. submarines can detect even the quietest Chinese boats at significant range, often before the Chinese submarine has any idea it's being hunted. This is not a technological race. This is a massacre waiting to happen. But even the stealth advantage doesn't capture the full picture, because modern submarine warfare isn't just about one sub against another. It's about networks, data, intelligence, coordination. And here, the United States has built something China simply cannot replicate. The ANBYG-1 combat system aboard Virginia-class submarines fuses data from satellites orbiting the planet. From MQ-4C Triton surveillance drones flying 60,000 feet overhead, and from P-8 Poseidon maritime patrol aircraft hunting submarines across thousands of miles of ocean. Every piece of data, fused, processed, delivered to the submarine commander. So while a Virginia-class boat lurks silently in the deep, it already knows where the Chinese submarines are, because the satellites told it, because the drones found them, because the P-8 Poseidons dropped sonar buoys and triangulated their positions. This deep connectivity extends to carrier strike groups, where American submarines act as forward scouts, relaying encrypted intelligence to surface warships like Arleigh Burke-class destroyers dozens of miles away. In the South China Sea's shallow sonar-scattering waters, where reefs and shallow shelves bounce sonar signals unpredictably, U.S. submarines coordinate with anti-submarine warfare helicopters, dropping AN/SSQ-62 sonobuoys to pinpoint Chinese submarine positions. This is multi-domain dominance. Air, sea, space, and the deep ocean, all networked together, all pointed at finding and destroying Chinese submarines. China is only beginning to develop these kinds of integrated tactics, tactics that the United States has been perfecting for decades. And you cannot fast-track that kind of mastery. It must be earned through decades of real operations, through Cold War cat-and-mouse games in the North Atlantic, through intelligence missions in the Persian Gulf, through shadowing Iranian submarines in the early 2020s. That experience lives in the heads and hands of American submariners, and no shipbuilding program in the world can replicate it overnight. Let's talk about experience, because this might be the most devastating gap of all. The U.S. Naval Submarine School in Groton, Connecticut was established in 1916. 1916, 110 years ago. Since then, the United States has trained generations of submariners. Through World War II, through the Cold War, through decades of cat-and-mouse games with Soviet Alpha-class and Akula-class submarines across the Atlantic's GIUK gap. That era drove extraordinary innovation. The SOSUS hydrophone network, a vast underwater listening grid stretching across the ocean floor. Advanced signal processing to detect faint submarine tones. Today, the U.S. operates multiple world-class submarine training facilities. The Naval Submarine Training Center Pacific in Pearl Harbor, the Submarine Learning Facility in Norfolk, Virginia, Trident Training Facilities in Kings Bay and Bangor, and a brand new Submarine Workforce Training Center currently under development in Danville, Virginia. China's primary submarine training academy? The Naval Submarine Academy in Qingdao, established in 1953. Nearly 4 decades after the U.S. launched its first submarine school. The result of this century-long head start is stark. The average American submariner has 15 to 20 years of experience. The average Chinese submariner, 10 years. 10 years versus 20. In a profession where a single mistake 300 feet below the ocean surface means death, that experience gap is everything. And American submariners don't just train, they operate. Continuously. Large-scale exercises like RIMPAC regularly see U.S. SSNs operating alongside Allied navies. Black Widow 2025 near Hawaii. Sea Dragon 2025 near Guam. Exercise Malabar 2025. Refining, sharpening, preparing. China is catching up. But it is catching up to where America was 20 years ago. Now, in the interest of full honesty, China is not helpless. Beijing has studied American submarine dominance carefully, and they have found the cracks. In the shallow, reef-strewn waters of the South China Sea, the 230-foot shallow shelves around the Spratly Islands, sonar physics changes dramatically. Sound bounces unpredictably off coral reefs and shallow bottoms. What was a clear acoustic picture in deep water becomes a chaotic mess of false returns and interference. In these waters, China's quiet diesel-electric Yuan-class submarines gain a significant advantage. With air-independent propulsion making them exceptionally quiet, and a shallow draft of just 22 feet perfectly suited for these waters, the Yuan-class can lurk near disputed outposts like Fiery Cross Reef for weeks at a time. Its YJ-18 anti-ship cruise missile flies at Mach 3, approximately 2,300 miles per hour, with a range of 335 miles. Its sea-skimming terminal attack profile is specifically designed to defeat American Aegis missile defense systems. A Virginia-class submarine built for 2,000-foot dives in the open ocean has a draft of 33 feet and risks bottom contact in the shallowest parts of these littoral zones. And China has a cost advantage that cannot be ignored. A Yuan-class diesel submarine costs around $200 million. A Virginia-class nuclear submarine costs over $3 billion. China can build 15 Yuan-class submarines for the price of one Virginia. Add to that China's rapidly expanding fleet of unmanned underwater vehicles, massive submarine drones stretching 60 to 150 feet in length, designed for long-range surveillance, mine-laying, and ambush missions. In September 2025, China publicly paraded its AJX-02 and HSU-100 extra-large UUVs. Even larger models, 135 to 150 feet long, have been spotted on satellite imagery under construction near Hainan Island. These are not toys, these are weapons, and in shallow, cluttered waters, they could create serious lethal problems for an approaching American fleet. But here's the truth that Beijing can never escape. Beyond those shallow shelves, in the deep open ocean, there is no competition. In the 3.1-mile deep Luzon Strait, in the cold depths of the North Pacific, in the vast blue water where nuclear deterrence is actually maintained, the United States dominates completely. U.S. Virginia-class submarines sprint at 30 knots sustained, networked with P-8 Poseidon spotter aircraft above, enabling standoff strikes from ranges that Chinese submarines cannot match. And the crown jewels, America's Ohio-class SSBNs, are ghosts that China cannot find. One Ohio-class SSGN, the USS Florida, famously remained at sea for 727 consecutive days, nearly 2 years, invisible, untouchable. China's submarines cannot do that. China's sonar cannot find American SSBNs. China's anti-submarine warfare capabilities lag years behind. And in a nuclear exchange, the scenario that matters most, China's 6 SSBNs, with only 2 or 3 at sea at any given moment, would likely be hunted down and destroyed before they ever had the chance to fire a single SLBM. That is not speculation. That is the assessment of military analysts worldwide. The gap in nuclear submarine capability between the United States and China is not a minor disadvantage for Beijing. It is an existential vulnerability. China is building fast. They are producing nuclear submarines faster than the United States for the first time. They are launching massive underwater drones. They are expanding training facilities and deploying crews globally. And in the shallow littoral zones of the South China Sea, they are a real and credible threat. But the ocean is vast, and in the deep, dark places where wars of survival are decided, where nuclear deterrence lives and dies, China's submarines are outgunned, outdetected, and outclassed. The United States has been the master of the underwater domain for a century. That mastery is not stored in factories or shipyards. It lives in the experience, technology, and doctrine that no nation on Earth has been able to replicate. China has the ambition, China has the money, China has the shipyards. But beneath the waves, their nuclear submarines aren't a deterrent, they're targets.